Welcome to a bonus mock draft edition of the Half Point Per podcast. Just when you thought we were sending Dalton off to Japan, we've got one more thing coming for you. Our first mock draft of the season. Dalton's picking at 9. I'm picking at 4. And we'll talk through some of the decisions and players as they come. On that note, Dalton, let's get this thing started. I like how this went completely different than the first time we did this, but when we had to scrap that video. I got Bijan at number 4 in that video, but I'll gladly take Saquon Barkley at 4 overall and be happy with that.
Yeah. I like how this is lining up for me. I have Amon-Ra St. Brown here, who I think could easily be a top 5 wide receiver this season, target king. And in spite of my concerns in Detroit, he's one of the players I'm not concerned about.
Yeah. Amon-Ra, pretty bulletproof.
I mean, it's back to me. And again, I think his sleeper ADP is a little weird because in underdog, he's going a lot higher. But I really like Brian Thomas Jr. here, giving me 2 elite options at wide receiver. One less exciting, one very exciting, but with more question marks. So I'll take Brian Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you who've listened to the My Guys show, I would have taken JSN there and been happy with it. But Brian Thomas Jr. Also, actually, I may have taken AJ Brown over both those guys and been happy with it right there. But I don't have an issue with Brian Thomas Jr. And on that note, JSN's ADP is just criminally low on sleeper. So that's who I'm going with. With my pick, we've got our first 2 quarterbacks off the board. We've got Brock Bowers off the board. That helps me. I wasn't looking at either of those positions this early in the draft, although Ladd McConkey did go off the board. I wondered if he would perhaps make it back around. Just because, well, I can't not pick Breece Hall because that's who I have. My second option would probably be Kyren Williams, a guy that we have not talked about. Yeah, he's going to see a little bit of work to Blake Corum, but he's still going to be awesome for fantasy this year. Like 10% less carries for Kyren Williams is still more carries than almost anybody else gets in their offense. But with that said, I mean, Breece Hall, we talked about it in the show. His ADP is crazy. And when you can get him as your RB2, and I now have Saquon and Breece Hall as my top 2 running backs, I'm feeling pretty good.
This is the exact scenario you mentioned on our My Guys episode, by the way.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious. So I'm looking around here, and I'm not very happy with what I'm seeing. I don't like Omarion Hampton. I had him as a bust. Yeah. I'm not going to take Marvin Harrison here. But I do really like T. Higgins. T. Higgins, who was a top 10 wide receiver last year in fantasy, was a league winner in every sense of the word with how he finished the season. And I watched the Bengals defense in the preseason, and they're going to need to score a lot of points again this year. So
yeah, you would think it'll be a little bit of a circus. I'm a little surprised you had a my guy George Kittle looking right at you that you passed up.
Well, I was really hoping he would come back around in the 4th round. That was my plan here. Yeah. Now we're looking around. I see you've made 2 flexes in this league, Evan, which is very helpful to me because I am going to go ahead and fill my 4th wide receiver here. I really like Devontae Adams' ADP. I think he's lower than he's going to finish. This is a player, unlike Puka, I'm not concerned about who's at quarterback, even though him and Garoppolo don't get along, because he's just such a quarterback-proof player. And it's going to be one of the first times in a long time he's been in a good offensive ecosystem.
Yeah, and Devontae Adams, still a really good football player. It's funny. I didn't even realize it was 2 flexes. I think that's probably because that's the default in our league that I'm commissioner of is 2 flexes. It probably just did that. I adjusted it to 12 teams and also half-point scoring. For anybody curious, it says that across the top. But half-point per podcast, big surprise. We're doing half-point scoring in the mock draft. I mean, I got to take another my guy here in Chuba Hubbard at, in the late 4th. And now at this point, there's a lot of receivers kind of in this wide receiver 20 to 30 range who I think we both really like. So with the way this team has kind of fallen, I do not mind having to go a little heavy on wide receiver. And you, Dalton, are going to be looking at some running backs here pretty soon, I would think, because I mean, you can start them all, but that's four receivers right off the top right there.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Like Rashee Rice, I think this is a little like I said 6th round on the podcast. I do believe that. I don't think this ADP, like that's probably not where he's going to go in drafts, but just the sleeper ADP hasn't fully compensated it. Another guy we had, well, okay, I see. So Zay Flowers is still here. So I'm going to go Zay Flowers. I think he's a pretty safe top 24 receiver. The week to week volatility is going to be there, but I just think at the end of the day, you're going to look up this guy's going to be a top 24 wide receiver, good offense, good player, by far the best receiver on this team. I do not care that DeAndre Hopkins is there. He is not that good anymore. He's fine. He'll produce a little bit, but he like for fantasy, he's not going to matter.
Yeah, you got Slot Boy City on your team for wide receiver.
We've been over this. JSN, not just a slot.
I really like how this landed because I was really hoping he'd come to me. But I'll be able to take James Conner here. It was a very productive rushing offense. Most of the things have stayed the same offensively for Arizona. I like him. I hope he doesn't get injured. But as an RB1 after taking those 4 at wide receiver, I feel pretty good about that.
It's funny. I haven't realized Sleeper had these little reactions you can do now. Can you see those when I do them?
Yes.
That's funny. Okay, so you're back up. I mean, 5 receivers fly off the board, which is good for you because you're probably not looking at the receiver at this point unless it's a value. The question is, are you taking DeAndre Swift as your RB2?
I won't be taking DeAndre Swift, but I like how this is fanning out for me. This is a good opportunity to talk a little bit about roster construction. I know Tony Pollard for the first 4 weeks of the season is going to be a workhorse. I also know that because I've taken 4 very good wide receivers, I'm going to take a lot of shots at running back. So I can fill and have time to play with what shots I actually like and which ones are getting work, while Tony Pollard easily fits into my running back 2 role before Tajay Spears returns. And then I can really trail the Ravens for that while I keep this kind of powerhouse wide receiver core.
It's almost like Sleeper just watched us record the My Guys, and they're like, okay, Evan, we're going to make you take every My Guy because Travis Hunter is right there, and I can't not do it. I can't not take Travis Hunter to be my wide receiver 3. I mean, I talked about all of the pros with Travis Hunter, like great prospect, good situation. I don't care that on Sleeper it says wide receiver, defensive back. He is mostly a wide receiver, and he is going to outperform this ADP this
year. Yeah, absolutely. I love the pick.
Now this is where it starts to get interesting. Talked a lot about how you don't want to be the guy drafting like the QB 7 through 12 type of range. So Bo Nix, like even though kind of looking around some quarterback like Mahomes off the board, Baker off the board, too early for me to go quarterback at this point. I typically don't really like taking tight end at this point in the draft either. Like TJ Hawkinson, not super interested. I mean, Chris Olave is just staring daggers at me right there. At 75 overall. Like Caleb Johnson as your RB4 is kind of interesting, but also like Jaylen Warren, I'm pretty sure is probably still on the board. Yep. Maybe he'll go to you before it comes back to me. But Warren, I would consider before Caleb Johnson. I'm going to go Chris Olave here. I mean, to get him as my wide receiver 4, as my 7th round pick, if he does have injury problems, if the offense like does have issues this year, it's not going to kill me at that price.
Yeah. I think we spend too much time together talking football because I already had Jaylen Warren in my queue. I like the Chris Olave pick. His skill is 3 rounds before this at a minimum. Yeah. It's just been the injury history and the offensive environment. Kellen Moore could bring some interesting things to him. Maybe more importantly, let him run slant routes, which he's good at, but he never gets to do. But here, again, I'm trying to insulate this running back room to have options. I think with what we saw from Caleb Johnson in the preseason and what we know Jaylen Warren is, he gives some pretty good floor value, and I think there's some upside there as well to be had.
Yep. No, I agree. I still think he's the best running back on this team. I did notice, so obviously Rashee Rice goes in the 5th. We talked about that a little bit. Worthy goes 5-12. would you still take Rashee Rice? I mean, I know again the ADPs are not fully updated on here because it just hasn't had the time to do so. Would you take Rashee Rice as the number one receiver picked on the Chiefs offense? Because I don't think I would.
No, I wouldn't be doing that. That's too high. And I think Worthy is going to have standalone value with or without him. And
Yeah.
I think he could be like an easy top 30 wide receiver. Um, okay, so here I've kind of filled that running back room with guys who can come out there and perform for me. It's time to
You've got some innings eaters.
yes. Now I'm just going to take a my guy, insulate that wide receiver room. I don't have to start Ricky Pearsall right away. I really like that, so I can see what he is. Gives me some trade ammo in the future, whether it's him or one of the top 4 wide receivers I drafted. But he's a perfect wait and see prospect where I can really turn him on, especially if he starts the season hot with that wide receiver room.
Yep. Absolutely. I'll say okay. I was hoping Matthew Golden would make it to me. Number one, because I kind of wanted to pick him, and number two, I'll just take this chance to mention something we did not mention on the podcast. But Jaden Reed apparently had a Jones fracture. That's the injury that he's been dealing with. Not to say that every Jones fracture is the same because they're not, but this was the injury for any basketball fans when Kevin Durant missed most of the season with the Thunder back in the day. It was this injury. Now, obviously, a 7-footer and a 5'11 wide receiver having this are two very different things. But the reason why KD missed so much time is because he did not have surgery the first time, came back probably a little bit quicker than he should have, I mean, like Jaden Reed is practicing through pain right now, is what they're literally saying today. And then he re-aggravated it and eventually had surgery because the deal with the Jones fracture is it's the fifth metatarsal. So it's the very outside of your foot. Don't get a lot of blood flow there, makes healing a little bit tricky. So all that to say, I'm a little bit afraid of Jaden Reed now after hearing that. And I do like Matthew Golden and would gladly take him at this spot had he fallen to me. Since he hasn't, I better actually make a decision here. And I mean,
TikTok.
you know, Emeka Ibuka, speaking of upside shots at receiver, Chris Godwin's going to be out a while. You mentioned it at this price point with Pearsall. This is not a starter. This is a bench player to where if he fades down the stretch, that's okay. But I do think Egbuka could be in for a really big role. I mean, they drafted him in the first round, and I think they're going to have to hand him a pretty big role right off the bat. And that might not just go away when Chris Godwin comes back. We'll see. Okay, looking next up, at some point, I'm going to have to take a quarterback or a tight end. That's not going to happen yet. And I'm looking over at JK. Well, I really
want
like
to do that.
I really like Colston Loveland is the thing. I feel pretty good about my running backs. I'll see how this works if I kind of wait on running back after going so strong early on. It's a mock draft. Why not? I'll take Colston Loveland here at tight end. I mean, and Tyler Warren goes right after. Like, those are two guys who both have the upside to outperform this ADP. And I think Colston Loveland even a little bit more so than Tyler Warren. Just the situation you like a little bit better, and he's just the better receiving prospect.
Yeah. So 2 players I wanted here were Tyler Warren and or J.K. Dobbins.
Okay.
Tyler Warren, we haven't talked about on the pod, but I really like, even in the preseason, he was getting mega usage. I really like what he provides for those Colts. Shane Steichen historically has had really good tight ends and didn't have one last year, and I think it showed. Just some notes on him. Here, I will be taking J.K. Dobbins. Here's the story. He's a running back 1 on a good offense. I think the RJ Harvey talk has overhyped him significantly. I think he went like round 4 in this league, round 5. And I think J.K. Dobbins is just a better back right now. So I'll take J.K. Dobbins.
Harvey went ahead of James Conner. That's pretty crazy.
That's actually insane. Okay, so I need a tight end. The most recent on the board is Kyle Pitts. Not doing that.
Oh, I thought you were going to do it. I was like, wow.
No. So here, like, we have really insulated ourselves from skill positions. I've taken 5 wide receivers and 4 running backs. This is a time for a moonshot. if I had a stronger top of the room, I might take Eckler here as a flex option, but I'm just going to take Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, see what happens. I like him in round 10. It's late enough that I'm not worried at
Yeah.
this point.
I don't think this is what's going to happen in home league drafts. But the 8, like, this is probably what should happen.
Yeah. It's late enough that he is still a moonshot. I think Chris Rodriguez and Eckler stand to get some reps in this. But again, we took Pollard with the intention that we're going to see how this room plays out with some of these other guys.
So I'm gonna wait at least one more pick to take either. Or I guess I did take a tight end. Sorry, I'm gonna wait at least one more pick for a quarterback, and that's because I have sleeper Tank Bigsby just looking at me right here in the 10th round. Is he gonna be on the Jaguars by the time this posts? We'll see. Whether he gets traded or he's on the Jags, like, I just think this is a pretty talented player who, if he is on the Jags, he's the best between the tackles, short yardage guy on the team. After starting off so strong at running back, as my clear RB4 and not a guy that has to start unless there's injuries, I like the bench role here for Tank Bigsby. And see, like Nick Chubb, I can't get excited about taking Nick Chubb, who was the other
No.
running back who I was kind of looking at there. I mean, Brandon Ayuk, top guy on the board. I haven't been close. Like, if Dak had not gone at 10-3, he's a guy I would have considered with my pick at quarterback there. I mean, with that said, we are getting pretty late. I know this is probably who you would like to take at quarterback, but I'm a pretty big time believer in the type of season that Drake May could have this season in a better offensive environment in New England.
Yeah, I like the Drake May pick. He was who I wanted to go here. I do have a backup option, luckily. But Drake May was a great rusher last year, got no designed runs, actually has a functioning offensive line and wide receiver room. It says a lot that every wide receiver he threw passes to last year isn't on the roster. And secondly, he's the first quarterback ever in his rookie season to throw 10 touchdown passes to 10 different players, if that gives you an idea of what he was dealing with.
Yep.
But I talked about him on the My Guys episode. I really like Justin Fields here. I see Caleb Williams on the board. I'm taking a bit of an upside play here and want to take Justin Fields and just see what he can do for me and see if he can win me some weeks. So I'm going to reach a little bit here, take him, and see who kind of comes back on this turn for me.
Oh, we've got kickers and defenses on here. That was not changed. So, but we can just not draft those guys. It's fine.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, I won't draft those guys. Here again, I like how this room's playing out, and
Braylon Allen, Mr. 40% of the snaps, clear down here at 12-3. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm taking shots now for this running back room. I have enough players that I feel confident in. I'm reaching on ADP again. I'm going for Ollie Gordon. The reason I'm going for Ollie Gordon is I think he's in line to be the workhorse back this Miami offense needs. Devon Chain is already banged up, and I like what I see out of him. He was great in college 2 years ago. He had a down year and it affected his draft capital, but it's between him and Bichal Tootin. But right now I feel more strongly that Ollie Gordon's going to work out a role early, and I can get a feel for that, unlike Bichal Tootin.
Let me ask this. If this were a team that we were keeping season long, given that you do have James Conner and you do have Tony Pollard, would you have strongly considered a Tajay Spears or a Trey Benson who just went off the board?
That's really not how I play redraft. I like to diversify my bets and just hope everybody stays healthy. And if they don't, you usually get worse value replacement.
I'm going to round things out at running back here, I think, with the aforementioned Tajay Spears. Like, much more talented than this price tag. Obviously, he's going to miss the first month of the season. That's why he's down here. But I think I'm strong enough at running back that I can handle that. And then can potentially, trade him and a receiver for an upgraded receiver if he is back and playing well in week 8, if this were a season long.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, if you have IR and you're doing a draft defensive kicker, you can draft Spears and then immediately stream your kicker or your defense.
I said I was going to quit the running backs, but I'm not drafting a kicker or defense, so I'm just going to take one more running back and then probably 2 more receivers. But I see a guy I like. I'm not going to be beholden to ADP at this point in the draft, and you shouldn't either. At this point, just take who you like. Doesn't matter how far you have to scroll. I'm taking Dylan Sampson because I think he could legitimately be the Browns' RB1 this season.
Yeah, I like Dylan Sampson. There's only 2 running backs on the roster right now. Just another insane stat about where we're at this year. So at this point, like Evan just mentioned, like I'm taking reaches on players who I think could have a role. And one player I'm taking, it's going to be Will Shipley. And the bet here is it's rare that a running back as many touches as Saquon returns to form. If there's ever a player to do it, it's going to be Saquon. But it's one of the last picks in the draft. I'm going to watch 2 games, see what happens, and Will Shipley will be a drop if nothing's happening there.
Can't even resist taking my handcuff to my first round pick in a mock draft.
Yeah, how's that feel? So at this point, as long as your league doesn't require you to actually draft a kicker or a defense, I wouldn't. Again, going to take another fun shot here. We just talked about it. I really like Jacksonville's offense. I think Britton Strange is a fine tight end for this offense. He's ho-hum value. He'll get me some PPR points. Nothing crazy.
Yeah, no, I think Britton Strange is a legitimately pretty good player and think he's a guy that could be him for a nice little like top 15 type of tight end season. So I don't hate that late round dart throw by any means. Okay, so this is where it's okay. So like you mentioned the handcuff in the first draft, I did have Bijan Robinson. This time I do not. Makes me at least double take it. Tyler Algier clear down here, but I'm feeling pretty good at running back. I'd look around a little bit to see. Like, I think I'd rather just, you know what? There's going to be guys in Buffalo's offense that we care about at some point besides Khalil Shakir as pass catchers. And I'm really hoping with this pick that Josh Palmer can be a guy like that this year. Not a great player, not a world beater, but I think he's a fine player who, frankly, I have more confidence in the floor for him than a Keon Coleman, who I didn't see where he went, but I almost, positive he went way higher than this.
Yeah, I like the Josh Palmer pick. I think he could be really good. I've liked him for several years, as you know, and he could have some chemistry there in Buffalo. They need an alpha or somebody who could at least command their target shares.
Yep. Last pick for me, and I talked up Mahomes so much in the my guys. Obviously, the other 2 receivers go very high. Let's just take Hollywood and see what happens the first couple weeks without Rashee Rice, because I think it's easy to just completely dismiss the guy who missed most of last season, and then with 2 other exciting pass catchers plus Travis Kelce. But Hollywood Brown was supposed to have a big role in last season's team, and he was being drafted like 5th round pick last year. Well, now Rashee Rice is going to miss a lot of time. I think Hollywood's ADP should probably lift up a lot higher than where it's at right now.
Yeah, I agree. I still like Hollywood Brown, and I mean, it's a return to form. He came back and played off an injury last year that sidelined him all the way up to the playoffs.
Yeah, and a completely new offense too. So like just had no bearings at all with the Chiefs.
Yeah, here again, you can see I've taken 3 rookies in my last 5 picks. Like I'm looking for some moonshot opportunities because I like the top of my board. I'm going to go with another moonshot here. I'm going to take Torrey Horton. I think the potential here is high. He's one of my sleepers. He already beat MVS out for that spot. MVS ended up getting cut. Torrey Horton could quickly compete for the Cooper Kupp role. I don't think Cooper Kupp is anything special at this point in his career. And if he can get those wide receiver 2 reps, he could be a real big value in drafts. So I'm just going to take him, see what happens in the first 2 or 3 weeks. If nothing's going on, I'll be back to the waivers.
Yeah, and I mean, Kubiak went out and brought in MVS, I think with the idea of, hey, let's see if Horton can beat this guy out, or like if I need to keep this guy who did have success in my system with the Saints last year, and they're clearly comfortable enough in this kid that I think he's going to open the season as their 3, and he could very well end the season as their 2, like you said, Dalton. So I like that pick. I think honestly we both came away with pretty good teams. Like I'd feel pretty good about taking this team into a regular season if I was able to do so. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I would take either of our teams into a regular season. Obviously, by week 1, I'd have to make some tough roster decisions. Just for anybody listening, my first cut easily would be Will Shipley. And then after that, it would probably have to be It might be Ollie Gordon over Torrey Horton based on how I feel about these players, but Torrey Horton probably makes more sense. I don't think he'll go picked up on waivers. The running backs get gobbled up a lot quicker on waivers early on. So I'd probably drop Torrey Horton when it came down to it. If no one got hurt and I couldn't move somebody to an IR spot.
Yep. I'm moving Hollywood, or not Hollywood. I'm moving Tajay Spears to IR. Dropping Josh Palmer probably over Hollywood and filling the other two spots that way. But all right, that is going to do it for this mock draft. Good luck to all of you drafting later today on Saturday or sometime over this weekend. Everybody say goodbye to Dalton. Safe travels to Japan. We will see you in 2 weeks. I will talk to you all again very soon. Thank you guys again so much for watching, so much for listening, as always.